Hello, good morning, everybody. Welcome to a interesting take on Captain's Chat. Today, you are joined by honorary co-captains Jeff Butler and Eric Newby. Today's guest is someone close to, I think people out here might know him. Number 1 in your hearts, number 14 on the court, Joe Delagrave. Let's bring him in, everybody.
Oh, man.
Oh, that's right. Sometimes number 14 in people's hearts too.
Oh, wow. Joe, hey, how's it feel to be on this side of things?
Kind of weird.
Look at the script.
Yeah, that was a great introduction, though. I can take a little example. Good pump up for the crowd. Yeah, I mean, there's 2 people watching right now. Maybe
crowd, just a huge crowd.
Everyone watching on tape delay back home. Yeah, so thanks for letting us flip the script here. Eric and I are really excited to let the world get to know the real Joe Delagrave.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for a little flip here.
That'd be cool. There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. We all have our, own unique stories of how we got to know the game. Eric and I started playing when we were pretty young. How did you get hurt? What was your intro to the sport like and your first reaction?
Yeah, so mine's a little bit different. I feel like a lot of people in our era watch Murder Ball and we're like, let's go check this out. And so I did not watch Murder Ball. I ended up the reason I looked into adaptive sports at the beginning was because I was fat. Like my buddies told me, hey, you're fat, you should probably try to work out. Like, thanks, guys. And he literally took me to some hospital bed, weighed me, and to basically be really nice about, hey, dude, the scale's not gonna lie, you're really fat and you need to figure something out. So it's always good to have people not like that in your life sometimes. And
are you still friends with this guy?
Yeah, dude, as the guy that actually was driving the boat, which I got hurt on a boat. I got hurt in a boating accident on the Mississippi River. I was just sitting on a boat. My buddy accidentally hit the bottom of the river. I flew backwards, hit my head, broke my neck. That whole spiel. So kind of a different accident than most people with car accidents or whatever it be. But and right away, I just thought, I don't know about you guys, I thought wheelchair sports were just dumb. Like when people were like, hey, you could do wheelchair sports or you could do that. I'm like, get out of here. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And I just thought they were pathetic. I didn't want to be around people in wheelchairs and nothing. And that was me for almost a year and a half, I think, until my buddy Kyle was like, dude, you need to weigh yourself and you're getting really big. And so did that. And then was like, all right, I got to look up sports. And so I started I just Googled wheelchair sports. And of course, basketball pops up, which is our favorite question when we're in the airports. We're like, you guys play wheelchair basketball? And it's like, no, we don't. Go away. Yeah, please go away. What's that big drum that you're carrying? Yeah,
that's what I tell everybody. I say wheelchair drum line,
marching band.
Yeah,
I'm a dancer. I think the famous questions that we get are, do you play wheelchair basketball, or are you guys gonna race when you're pushing next to a buddy? And
the worst.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so that's how I got started. And then I looked that up, wheelchair basketball, and I realized wow, these guys have way more function than I do. And then I looked up wheelchair racing, and I was like, that looks pathetic. I'd rather eat lettuce the rest of my life and have to do that. I hated running as an able body. I wasn't gonna like it in a wheelchair. And then looked up a Murder Ball link clip, not the movie, but just a link of watching these guys play. And I was like, wow, that looks cool. So I ended up driving 2 hours north to Minneapolis Courage Center, and Jody Mines and Todd Kemry were there, and Eddie Bronson, and
the good old
yeah, they got me in some sharp shadow that I think I needed a tetanus shot for. And took April in the jaws of life 45 minutes to get me maybe some baby powder and a sliding board to get me in this chair.
How many weight belts did you have to use?
2, put together.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. That whole team used a lot of weight belts.
Oh God, yeah, a lot of weight belts. Yeah,
Joe, I know. For me, there was kind of a moment, not necessarily a moment, but when it was hey, maybe I want to try to get really good at this, right? I think it happened kind of naturally. But there are some key moments for all of us all three of us, where it was like we made a decision to go get good, right? I moved to Texas, Newbie moved to Denver, you moved to Phoenix, right? Like we all moved out of where we were in order to get better at what we wanted to do. What was there like a moment? Did it happen slowly that you were like, hey, maybe I could be pretty good at this?
Yeah, kind of crescendoed, but I think like right away when we all play and then you learn that it's a Paralympic sport, you kind of learn what the Paralympic sports are, and everyone talks about it. I remember those guys all talking about, Paralympics and USA team and Coach Gumby and all these and everyone gets excited. And if you're being honest with yourself right away, you're like, well, I could do this. Because I think that's what every rugby player says when they first start playing, and then figure out like the work that it takes and the dedication and all that stuff. But so right away I was like, yeah, I can do it. And one of the examples was Jesse Honnell always went to Texas with the Bees in the winter. And so he'd go down to Texas, and he started with, practicing with the Texas team and Zupan and all these guys. I'm like inside, I was like, that's really cool. And he was all gung-ho at that point back in 2006. And that was the first like better chair I sat in, was his chair. I used his chair. We went to Milwaukee Iron Tournament in 2006, where it was like my first tournament, and he had 26s. That's the reason I like got into 26s, because I was like, oh, he could do it. And so I can do it. And that was like the genesis of my rugby career. But yeah, like I think it's happens kind of quick, but then you have to like make it a goal. And I don't think I did that until watching the guys in 2008. I'd already started playing for a while, maybe a year, but watching those guys fly around and all the deuces fly around, Seth and Will and Andy and Nick, and Derek didn't make the team, but seeing him, and he was just jacked out of his mind at that point.
Don't forget Kirkland.
Yeah, and Kirkland, Brian, and like they just kept on shuffling the deuces out. They're like the big line of that tournament, and I was like, wow, I want to do that someday. Like I was probably eating like cake at the time, but that's when it became a goal. And then 3-4 months later, I ended up getting a tryout. And the reason I got a tryout is because I went to Texas. Newbie was there, Melton was there. It's like this summer jam. I was like, I want to make sure like this coach sees me, and that's usually like, little hint to players, like get seen, like go to different things, go to different tournaments, different camps, different whatever be clinics to be seen. And so I was big and tall and fat and raw talent and not very good, but saw it. And so we ended up going to tryouts in December 2008. The rest.
And when did you make your first team? What year?
So December 2008 was when we had that tryout. And Newbie got all pissed at me because like, wait, did Newbie get? Yeah, you got cut, right?
My first tryout was 2009.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. Yep. So for the 2009 team.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was like December 2008 was when the tryout. And it was like all.
Yes, I got cut that year.
Yeah. So I made the training squad and then got cut.
You tried out once and made the team? Like you made it on your first tryout?
Yeah.
What about you, Eric?
My second tryout, I made the team and never got cut again.
I hate you guys so much. It took I went 5 tryouts before I made that team.
I think, but like at the time, deuces were like a premium,
especially 6'5" deuces. That
you remember tryouts, dude? Like tryouts. There'd be like 15 to 20 deuces trying out.
Yeah, there'd be like 32 people on the list, and 20 of them were twos.
Yeah, like we did the miles just with deuces because which was great. We didn't have to chase Adam around.
It's kind of crazy. Even as early or even as recent as, let's see, like 2015, right? In Toronto, didn't we still have like 6 deuces on the roster?
Yep, I think so. 5 or 6. Yeah. In 2015, the roster in Toronto was Newbie. That was Newbie's like coming out party, and me and Ernie and Seth.
Papa
was not there,
but they were alternates. So they were
alternates. Papa was on the team, and then Derek was still on the team. So yeah.
It's wild. It's wild to see how the composition of the team has changed and just moved with the whole game.
Well, and that's that's the interesting part that you bring up too with like 0.5s, and classification thing is just tricky where some people just would have quit. You kept on going, but 0.5, like sometimes there's lines that are it's significant. Obviously now it's one of our best lines that you're playing. But then, back in like some of Rieger's days, it was 3-2-2-1 was like the big line, and it was a big line for us in 2013-14 where 0.5 didn't really play. So it's like, well, we need like 1.5, but we definitely don't need 3 or 4. But kind of interesting.
Yeah. Joe, you have done what a lot of athletes and both in parasport and an able-bodied sport kind of aspire to do, which is break into the speaking world, right? And moreover, have a really solid career life and, planning out your career post-sport, kind of starting now. What do you think it takes? And I very briefly played around with the idea, looked at how much work it was going to take, and I was like, nah, right? Like I want to do a different path. So it is way more difficult than I think people realize to build that presence and to lay all the groundwork, that things you've done to this point. Can you unpack, what it takes to get to this point, how you got here, what made you want to get to this point?
Yeah, it took a while. It was a journey. Crazy. Like my undergrad is in pastoral studies. My graduate degree is in counseling, and I worked as a counselor for a while. And then obviously played rugby all these years on the national team, and leadership being important, and but always dabbled in speaking. But I think sometimes like our disabled community numbs you to the idea that like you're unique and your story is worth telling. So I think a lot of us want to, like, we wrestle so much with like, we want to be athletes first and disabled second. And that's like the identity that we're trying to get. And we're trying to get that across because there's just so many bad stereotypes out there for disabled people in the world. Like there's a lot of people, I mean, you guys get it. You guys have had careers and jobs and family. Like a lot of people are like, oh, well, whatever, they're disabled. And like, they just throw you in like that disabled box. And so fighting for that, like as a career, and like just, play rugby and try to get as normal as possible. But then for me, there was two things that happened with speaking that kind of was the aha moment. Number one, I loved doing it. I remember speaking in 2018, kind of had the aha moment when I spoke for Organic Valley and got off the stage. They paid me really well and got off. And I was like, I have as much joy doing this than I do playing rugby. And I could see myself doing it because I found a little bit of purpose in it, with some people that talk. And obviously it always feels good if you ever share your story. People are like, I'm inspired by what you've done, not because of just being in this wheelchair. Like that's, all of us want to punch you in the face when you say that. But
exactly.
But like it's like, Jeff, I'm inspired because you've like got hurt at 14 and now you're going to be in Stanford getting your MBA at one of the best schools in the world. That's inspirational. And so like some of our journey, I think sometimes we almost sell ourselves short in our community with how much some people account. And so found the passion, found the purpose of why I'm doing it, and believed in myself enough to like tell a story worth telling. And I think a lot of us have that. And I think to a certain extent, our team has kind of supported each other in our lives outside of rugby and what we want to accomplish with our careers and with our families and kind of those avenues.
There's definitely been a shift, right? From what I think we generally refer to as like the murder ball guys, which is the Team USA from, I don't know, 2000 to 08, I think is probably kind of the umbrella category that most of them call it.
Yeah.
Where it was overwhelmingly that group was all rugby all the time. They were running 3-a-days at camp, doing like 21-day camps, 3-a-days every minute, right? Just running them into the ground. And we've seen this really interesting shift happen where we're kind of supporting athletes more as a holistic individual than just as a pawn to play in wheelchair rugby. And I think that's been a really interesting shift. One of the big takeaways that I've seen in my time has been this emphasis on sports psych, and like everyone has to respect each other and get along in order for us to have a good outcome on the court. And you've been one of the people who have been really driving that, Joe. What do you think is so important about that, interpersonal dynamics that you've really been driving in sports psych?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. It's part of it, I think, for me, and kind of like trying to champion some of it, came from failure. So, like we all know, like the story, 2013 to 16, and like we wanted to win gold. Obviously, like every quad, like you want to win gold. Like that's a given. Like no one wants to lose. Literally, they'd get dumped out of their wheelchair and pushed down the hill. If like someone's like, "Yeah, guys, I want to lose." Like, no, that's not a thing. But looking back on that quad, and obviously whatever happened in 2015 and 16 with me not making it to Rio and getting cut, and it was devastating. But I think for me, I had to look in the mirror and figured out what I could do better. No matter if I think it's my fault or not, like there's always a chance to get better, an opportunity to get better. And I looked at it and I thought the way I led, I could have led better. And a lot of my leadership back then, I think, was too much focused on how do I get myself on the court compared to like, how do I make the team around me better? And that's a tough one to grab. And I don't know if I did a horrible job of leading back then, but I think I could have done it better to serve our team holistically. And I think kind of moving forward, I was like, let's create a culture that loves each other, a culture that builds each other up. And when we're done playing, whenever that is, hopefully we're better men because of it, or women that are in the program because of it. And that was kind of the driving force behind it. I wanted to be a better version of myself moving forward. And hopefully that's shown a little bit in the last 4 years, but that was the genesis. But you touched on something before that as well, on like the team, the generation before us. And I kind of look at it too, like where they were coming from. And a lot of them came from like staying in this crappy hospital, weird ghost dorm room type thing, and didn't get paid, had to pay to play. And then when they left it, they're probably like, well, we're finally getting a stipend. We're finally able to be athletes in some regard, maybe get health insurance if you needed it. And then for us, I think, we're taking it the next step of like, how do we use this sport to better ourselves individually in our careers or in our family lives or whatever it would be. But so I think that's important, and leaving it better than where you found it. And that's kind of
well, I think that's huge too. Sorry to interrupt you, but like a lot of guys, like I know Will Grew and Andy, and I think Zupan had a big part in it. Like they put all this work in to get us more money and to get us just like established as a real program. And like you can't look back at their hard work and say, oh, we're just going to leave it the same, right? Like we want to make it better. We want to make it a better program and invite more newer athletes wanting to be a big part of it. And then we expect them to also take over when we're done and do the same. And I think you alone have been one of the biggest parts of that push for our team. And that's pretty awesome to watch. I took a step back after Rio, and when I came back, it was completely different. It was mainly because of you. So it was cool.
I appreciate that. And I think, you said that perfectly. Like we all have our like ownership in it, and the guys before us, whether it was Mark and the way he was connected, or Andy and the way that he was extremely passionate about some things that he got done really well. Yeah. Will the same way. I mean, Will can smile, and then someone was, write him a check type of thing. Like
exactly,
those perfect teeth. But like there was, Scott again, and being able to just grind and get stuff out of guy. And you look at like the U.S. women's national team and the way they've done that for 20 years in their program, ever since the 1999 World Cup, really, in that group of ladies, and then a new regimen came in, but they just kept on going and said, you know what, like we're taking a stand. And I think it's something that hopefully we can continue to do in the program and build it out even bigger and better.
Mm-hmm. We'll let Mason take over after we're done. Right?
Yeah, Mace, you still can't reach, dude.
Yeah, that's okay. Okay, let's play. This isn't a game, but USA Wheelchair Rugby just got $1 million. Okay, what's on our wish list?
USA Wheelchair Rugby just got $1 million.
$1 million of discretionary funds, right, to be used in the run up to the Tokyo Games.
Are we so we can use it for whatever, like not just?
Oh yeah,
that's the last 1 year.
We could get a team masseuse full time. Dirty does a fantastic job. But why not have a full time team masseuse? We could get padded shower benches, which is something that I've been a big proponent of for a long time.
Oh, absolutely.
Put my plug in for padded shower benches.
That's number one. Padded shower benches, and then new mattresses, I think, would be very high on the list.
And then Lori B gets like a $50,000 raise. At least.
Yeah.
At least.
We're buying Lori B a new car.
Yeah, exactly. And a raise.
But I think, and I don't know what you guys think about it, but I've thought about something like this, but not like, how would you spend $1 million? I've watched some of the YouTube videos and like how Tyler Harrow spent his first $1 million, which is just silly. It's just silly. Like a 19-year-old kid, how do you think he's going to spend it? He's going to buy cars and shoes.
Yeah.
But setting up an endowment, setting up a foundation for USAWR to make it a legit organization. I think one of the things that it's lacking right now in our sport, and I think Canada does a really good job of this. Obviously, they have a lot more resources, but making being on USAWR something special and giving historical context to it. And so creating a USAWR Hall of Fame, creating a way for alumni to be able to still be represented within the organization, whether that's a board or whether that's annual or biannual, or like annual or quad style meetings where people come back. And I mean, how crazy it'd be, like 10 years from now, we all get to have a weekend together, have some drinks. Our kids are there, our wives, what you know what I mean? Like, it's something like that is really neat to see, like, wow, this group of people that I went through something really unique with, I get to enjoy a meal and some drinks every year with, and then our wives get mad at us and all that. But no, I think like spending it there, big picture makes a lot of sense too. Yeah. And that's something that we've always lacked, is that big chunk of money to be able to start something like that. I
think Alumni Events would be incredible.
Sleep number beds. Yes, service.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you brought up. I hadn't thought about that alumni engagement, but it's something that it can be so jarring, right? Because you're so close with these guys. We're brothers. We travel around the world together. We win and we lose together. And then you show up to a tryout, and one of your brothers, doesn't, like, one of your teammates doesn't make the team. And if they live across the country from you, that might be the last time you see them, right? And that story is told, all over the place.
Yeah.
Within you can point to a bunch of people, and whether they just retire after games or they get cut, right? And it's like you never see them if they're not playing club rugby. And I love that idea of figuring out, even if it's unofficial, start this kind of USAWR alumni organization. Why not?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pride already. I mean, you saw, like, I see on my Facebook feed, a lot of people are posting about the 2000 Sydney games and how much pride they have in playing in those games. And 20 years later, but there's no connection to the actual sport still, or no connection to the USAWR. And so, yeah, if anyone has $1 million that's listening, please. But okay, so big picture though. So maybe we can talk a little bit about like smaller picture, of like what would be awesome to have on our road to Tokyo the next 11 months.
I have been really lucky that I was able to talk my way into a couple international upgrades on flights to first class. That would be number one on my list. Is showing up, you're not jet lagged. There's no 2 days to get figured out, right? When you're sleeping you're sleeping horizontally on the way to Japan across the Pacific, that's fine.
And just like getting that circulation, like not stuck in economy class next to 6 other guys that are huge and uncomfortable. It's miserable back there.
Being tall on long haul.
Like my feet don't touch the ground because my knees are stuck on the seat in front of me.
I remember, I think maybe you were with me on one of these most recent upgrades that we were lucky to get, and going on the plane. Mandy comes to us and she goes, I couldn't get your cushions on your seat because there were too many pillows in the way. I was like, yes.
Sorry.
That's a good luxury one though. First class all the way.
Yeah, that'd be handy.
Yeah, that'd be one. What about like being able to properly reimburse our staff and like coaches? Like that'd be great.
Yeah, I think all of them deserve way more than what they get tenfold.
I would love a hot tub at camp. That's something that would be nice.
Not one that's shared by a million lakeshore.
No, just USAWR specific.
Yeah.
Put on the balcony.
Yeah,
done.
Put on the balcony, and then have a TV with an overhang there. Out. I mean, come on.
But every time we'd go out there, Bobo and Frenchie would be in there, and then we'd go,
Frenchie would never. Yeah, there'd be like, is there bubbles in there? Or you guys started out? No, it's just Frenchie farting.
There's beans for dinner. Frenchie's in there.
Yeah, 100%.
Man, I don't know. That's a good question. $1 million. That's a lot of money, but at the same time, like for a sports program, it's not a lot of money. So you just have to pick like little fancy things, like a hot tub and a massage therapist.
Don't worry, we'll put a list together. We'll get this just in case USAWR ends up with $1 million. We'll have it ready to go.
Maybe even if someone just paid for Dirty's Band-Aids, so you don't have to pay for them out of his own pocket, that'd be great.
Goes through a lot of those bad boys too.
Oh, a lot of Band-Aids.
What do you guys think of the whole like Japanese toilets? I'm a big fan of them.
That they play music. I like that.
They play music and they like powder your butt and everything.
Yeah.
I struggle with the Japanese toilets because I use a shower chair that I put over the toilet.
Ooh,
and because they're so wide and there's so much technology, it makes it a little difficult. Although I'm curious what the other Kishi, if you're watching, I'm sure you are. How do you do it? Send me a message. We'll use Google Translate.
Send them pictures.
Like what do you do with your travel shower chair over those?
I want the video of you pooping.
Yeah, Jeff would love to see a video of you taking a poop.
Super useful. Okay, so I realized we probably pivoted into the fun part too soon because I do want to talk a little more about Joe and how awesome he is. One thing that I've had the opportunity to do with you, Joe, is coach a clinic. I know that coaching is really important for you. There are so many people in the league who, when you ask them, like who is the most influential person that helped to kind of guide you in the sport or mentor you, like you are probably overwhelmingly the person that people would say. What do you get out of that? What do you like about it? Do you feel like you have a responsibility to pass on knowledge to the next generation? Right. Tell us a little bit about that coaching aspect.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things that come to mind, and I think we all have we always all have unique gifts and unique talents in the sport of wheelchair rugby. Like Jeff, for you, like you're opposite end of the spectrum freak, where you're 0.5, you have a really great arm, you're really smart, you can push fat, like all that stuff. So like like an anti freak function athlete type of thing, right? For a low pointer. Like newbies really good at reaching and really good at trash talking and really fat. And so for me, like trying to figure that out, because obviously, one of the things that newbie and I had on our side was size and being tall. And so that helped right away. But then trying to find my niche and looking at all the different twos when I was starting was, Derek had all kinds of function. And Andy was like super, super smart. And Brian was huge and fast. And Will was obviously the fastest two I think that's ever played. Seth found his like niche. Nick, obviously being a different disability, but found his niche. And so like I was trying to find that. And I think for me, moving to Phoenix and being behind Scott and learning from him, and he did a lot of the same. He had a really strong, high work ethic. It was a student of the game. And so for me, it was like, if I can be a little bit more smarter than maybe my opponent and try to put myself in different matchups to succeed from like a student of the game approach, that's kind of where I could be the best version of myself, and then hopefully help my team out. So that's how that started. And then I think it's also just along the lines of leading and trying to make the team better, is make our league better. And if we can help people out doing that. And I just enjoy mentoring people, and I needed it. I mean, newbie, I think, was at my first tournament. I was huge. I didn't know how to push a wheelchair.
I wasn't much smaller, buddy.
I can do a lot more wheelchair tricks now than I could back then, but I'm still not that great at it. But like, I needed that mentor. Like, rugby was that mentor for me, and there was a lot of people involved, including Scott and Gumby and all our national team coaches and staff, you guys, players before me, to help me out either organically or intentionally. And so for me, that was like, I need to do this. Like, that's kind of like a thing that I think all athletes should do to a certain extent. But for me, it's what I enjoy doing. If I go out and talk to different organizations, I need to make sure that I'm doing what I'm actually talking to them about doing. And so there was that. But yeah, I really enjoy coaching. I really enjoy seeing people's potential fade and their true potential is kind of a dangerous word. Like, pretend like, oh, you have the potential, and then someone 3 years later says, yep, you still have the potential. Like, that's probably not a good thing. That's like not a good compliment.
Yeah.
And so seeing people's potential realized into them actually doing those things now, and so can find a lot of importance and joy in that.
I think you said something really cool in that, Joe, and it's
wait, who's
I'm gonna go with
I'm clearly the newbie.
Yeah, I'll go with the bad. That's fine. Whatever.
Frenchie, stop at you can't ask questions on that.
One thing you said, Joe, that I think is important, and I'm sure it's something that you've touched on before, but it's important especially for these players who are looking to make the next step to an international team, is find a niche and play to your strength. Don't go out and make 1,000 left-hand passes, right? Like, don't do that.
Unless you're left-handed.
Yeah, that's your good hand. Go ahead and do that.
Yeah, if that's your hand, go do it. But there's this, and I think it's a fallacy that you have to be a super balanced player at all of across the board, and it's just not true, right? I broke into the team by passing well. You guys broke into the team by just happening to be massive, right? Like, that's great. Play to your strengths, and I think that is something that almost can't be overstated enough. Is find what you do really good at and become a specialist.
Yeah. I mean, that's how
before. Yeah.
The biggest way I cracked into the team, honestly, was a 2 that can run really good key offense. And like, you just don't see that so much. Like, there was Andy, he was awesome at it. He was better than I was at it. And I kind of watched a lot of film of Andy and just kind of learned from him. And that was my niche coming in. And that's kind of the only reason I made the team, in my opinion, at first, and then just kind of grew from there. So I think you're 100% right. You don't need to be the best at everything, but if you're really good at one thing that gets you noticed and gets your name out there, then that starts the train rolling.
We're plenty old enough to get that reference.
Yeah, we've seen Western movies, French. Go away.
Maybe we should start talking about French for a few minutes.
Let's just talk about Houston sports for a minute, and that'll get them on.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Houston Asterix just blew that one.
Yep. Yeah, went game 7. Nah, see you later.
Titans? What?
It is okay. We can let's do some staff appreciation. I think that's worthy.
That's what we're doing.
What do we have? I don't know if I can publicly say my favorite Frenchie story. I have a lot of them, and the more we talk, the more he's going to sweat, which is what I love the most.
One of my favorite Frenchie stories can definitely be talked about. He picked up Chad Cohn and put him on top of a table that was the exact size of his chair. So Chad was stuck on top of a table, and he couldn't move, couldn't turn, and it was one of the greatest things I've ever seen.
I would like to get. Have you had Dubberly on this yet? I think Dubberly would be a great guest.
Oh, Brad would be, yeah.
I would love to hear from the Australian team, specifically Dubberly or like the equipment managers, about their take on the rubber chicken that gets passed around.
Yeah, the rubber chicken, and like Frenchie has the dance moves when he goes out there and changes tires and stuff too.
Was it
A lot of crop dusting.
I think it was at the WWRC 19. He was like a superstar. He would when he would come out to change a tire or something. They would play like Frenchie music, and they'd be screaming in Japanese. It was just the best thing ever, and he was an instant crowd favorite.
It went to his head though, because there was one play where I hit a guy over the line, and I drew a heart, punched it out, and he thought I said wheel, so he came and ran on for his time again. And I was like, I don't need you.
Go away.
Yeah,
love it. This hosting thing is hard. You got to have a whole bunch of questions ready.
Uh-oh.
Let's go
like
back.
you just ask him a question, but don't let him. When I have dead air, I just keep talking. Go ahead, Jeff.
That's what you get. Let's go back to fun stuff. Clearly, you are a sports fan. What are give me your major teams so that everyone out there knows where your allegiances are.
Just say Chicago.
So pretty much Chicago everything. I'm from Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
Huge Packer fan because of Brett Favre. Cubs fan. Bulls, Blackhawks. Yeah.
So the Cubs are playing the Packers. Who do you root for?
Well, they're baseball and baseball.
Did you just say? No, I thought you were kidding.
The Bears are playing the Packers.
I root for the Packers.
I'm really glad this is live.
All right, everybody.
You just said that.
If I could pull myself out of the studio.
You just sound like a basic white girl is what you sounded like.
Sports ball. You sound like Jake Daly is what you sound
Maybe your turn to ask some questions because clearly I'm failing.
All right, so if the Bears are playing the Packers, who are you rooting for?
I'm rooting for the Packers. Still the Packers.
Yeah, that's probably a good choice, except the Bears are better this year.
But yeah, so I started my rugby career in Minnesota. So everyone thinks I'm from Minnesota. I lived there for a little bit, but from Wisconsin. It's kind of like I used to call it I can't talk. Nick Springer used to say it all the time, like, "Oh, yeah, you're from Minnesota," and I'm like, "Well, you're from New Jersey, so there's that."
Here's something fun we can talk about. Where there is a big difference between like D2, D3 Heartland rugby and D1 rugby that we all play now.
Mm-hmm.
I miss a lot of things from those D2, D3 tournaments. What do you, and this is for newbie and Joe, like, what do you guys miss most? I will start by saying I miss the food.
Food's a good one. I miss the reffing. It was like super chill. Like you got, oh man, what was his name? The amputee that was a ref in the Heartland for so long. You remember his name, Joe?
Oh yeah, Tim Davis.
Yes, thank you. He was from Indiana. Way to go, Jeff.
Ask Nick. I don't know what's wrong with you. Nothing's wrong.
I miss like those calls where he's like 30 feet behind the play and someone scores and he calls it no goal or so. Yeah, it's just like that kind of stuff. And the amount of jump balls I used to get back then. Now everything's a reach in D1. It's stupid. But yeah, just like, I don't know, those tournaments were just like built for the recreation and the fun side of it. And D1 is built for like very intense technical stuff, which is also really fun. But there's like, when you go back to it, you're like, oh man, this is great.
Yeah. It was the spreads lunch were so good.
Oh, food was just the best.
Yeah.
St. Louis is always the best.
Someone's mom makes mac and cheese, right? There's a great burgers. Oh yeah.
Sue Tucker's mom always makes sloppy joes for the St. Louis tournament. They're the best thing ever. Mm-hmm. For the launch, not for the game afterwards, but you know.
There's also something that's really nice about once you've been right. Every once in a while, we'll go to a tournament either with like a developing team, like a developing line, or we'll go to a less competitive, like not a D1 tournament. And so you find yourself playing in these games, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is so much fun to be like. I'm not really concerned about winning, right? There's nothing on the line. It's just like I'm just out playing rugby, and it's fun.
Yeah, it was good times. It was good times. Not the best rugby, but good time.
No, definitely not the rugby. It was more fun for the camaraderie weekends. going and playing poker till 3 a.m. with the Minnesota boys.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start the random wrap-up questions. What, Joe, is your biggest wheelchair pet peeve?
Biggest wheelchair pet peeve? Great question.
A good question.
Man. Huh. Like wheelchair, like my wheelchair, or like what?
Yeah, like wheelchair related, right? So whether it's okay, so one of my biggest pet peeves is go ahead, go.
Oh, okay. I want to hear.
Don't let him talk. Frenchie told us not to let him talk. Jeff, you go.
What about when we're in the airport and you hear someone, oh, they're racing. Oh, look, they're racing.
That's one. The other one is like touching my wheelchair without me even asking. Like you would never go up and touch someone without asking them. Like you don't do that. Like,
if you're over the age of 5, you cannot touch my wheelchair without asking me.
Yeah.
Unless I know you.
Yeah, unless I know you. Exactly.
Tony Durham is making the Heartland great again.
Yeah, he is.
So is Mike Klinowski.
The real revolution right there.
That's right.
Do we see a power shift changing in any time in the near future in the USQRA? Right, like the mountain for a long time was the place to be. Now, clearly, the power shift could change. Do we foresee that happening?
It's still kind of the mountain, though. I mean, there was like a couple years there where the Heartland like shifted, like Lakeshore kind of fell off. Mm-hmm. And like St. Louis became the best team in the Heartland. But like besides that, like within the divisions, I think there's shifts, but I think the mountain is always going to be the D1 powerhouse.
Yeah.
I mean, it could shift, but it's going to take
warm weather.
Yeah, it's the weather. I mean, quads are attracted to warm.
Yeah.
Has that always been the case? I mean, I know Sharp was really good early in the day. Lakeshore clearly was really good for, 2000 to, 98 to 2004. I think they won like all of those championships.
I think Lakeshore was the anomaly. And then there was a couple years where Tennessee had a good team. But like besides that, like I think it's always been West Coast teams and Texas have been dominant.
Yeah. Joe, did you ever tell us your wheelchair pet peeve?
Yeah, people touching my chair.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Did you ever get pats on the head? Because I was in the gym the other day and some old dude came up behind me and patted me on the head and told me I was doing great, and I about punched him. So
my worst story of this was when I still had like the what is it, the little handles in the back, little grab handles, and April and I were at a wedding and we're slow dancing, and everyone in a wheelchair knows how you slow dance. You put the chick on your lap. So I was on my lap, we're dancing around, whatever. And like an 85-year-old man walks up and starts pushing me around the dance floor. And I'm like, don't do that. And he keeps on going, having the time of his life. And I'm like, stop doing that. It was the most awkward thing. So it was about 2 minutes long, end of the song. And at the end, he pats me on the head and says, hey, you're welcome.
He did it for 2 minutes?
Yeah, it was like the next half of the song. And he would not stop. And it was the most awkward thing ever. It was awful.
Oh,
and I was like, April, I'm never take these off. I'm never putting them on again. And it was like an invitation for people. And there's the flip down ones. I think Jeff, you had the flip down ones, right? There's a reason you want those things flipped down. Yeah.
Is there a video of you?
90s Tampa was the best.
Yeah, Tampa and Hover Round. Hover Round was good for a long time too.
Yeah. There's no video of that. No.
Steve, if you can answer quick, when did Tampa win any of those late 90 championships?
Oh yeah, they won a couple. 2 or 3.
Yeah.
We need to get Joe, Uncle Joe on the show. Joe Soares back on the show.
That'd be a good one.
Yeah. Talk Red Sox.
You should get Soares, Gumby, and Dubberly on here together.
Ooh. No one would ever get a word in.
Yeah.
Oh, it'd be so fun. Kevin Orr. Throw Kevin Orr in there too.
For Kevin. Well, it'll be like the wheelchair race they had at Lakeshore, except not.
Kevin will win again. Weird.
98, 99. Okay.
98, 99. I think the league needs to morph into, and we've talked about this on the show before, but into a higher caliber elite level league with levels below that. But like 4 teams tops, maybe 5.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. That's Joe Delagrave's hot take for right. Way to end the show with topic we could spend 30 minutes on.
We're gonna do another hot take. I usually when I'm the host of the show, I don't blast it, but just wanted to thank Vesco Wheelchairs. Look at them at Instagram at Vesco Wheelchairs for making the best chair in the game. Obviously, Jeff's a big fan of Melrose. We'll give Melrose a shout out too.
Push Red.
Love the Melrose guys.
Yeah, signature red.
Hey man, all those guys from either company are pretty awesome. Not gonna lie.
Yeah,
agreed.
If you want to check out joedelagrave.com for speaking engagements, check that bad boy out. We do virtual ones as well.
Great, Joe. Thanks so much for joining us on the Captain's Chat hosted by myself, Jeff Butler, and honorary co-captain Eric Newby. It's been great having you on. Longtime friend of the show, Joe Delagrave.
Longtime friend of the show. Chuck French, thank you so much for coming on as well. Oh, wait, you've never been on. Never mind.
Yeah. Frenchie, when are you going to be on here? You need to do it in Frenchie and then play the silent game.
Next week, we have the honorary judge, Gary Pate.
Ooh.
Hey.
I will be tuning in for that one.
That'll be a lot of fun. So, yeah, we need a lot of people tuning in to hear.
Are you guys going to put all your kids in the room behind you so you guys can just...
I'm sure there'll be some Pate kid sightings. My kids, they know not to come in here.
Yeah. They've learned.
All right. Well, thanks for interviewing me, guys. Everyone, thanks for watching. As always, you can go over to usaw.org for more information. Check out Newbie on Instagram at Newbie2006. Jeff at Jeff P. Butler. Jeff's really smart. He has the same thing on Twitter, Jeff P. Butler. Branding is on point at eNewbie9. On Twitter. I don't think anyone uses Twitter anymore. Besides,
I haven't used Twitter since like 2015. So.
Chuck uses Twitter.
Coach Sue and I, let's go. You guys want to be on together? I don't know if Coach Sue wants to share the screen with you. I'm just saying. I don't know. French was on Lee's episode for that. Yeah, that's true. He was on for 2 minutes. That doesn't count. That doesn't count, right? All right. We'll end it. Grizzly Bear.
I would say Tiger wins all day.
I'm taking the Grizzly. I'm taking the gorilla over the Grizzly, but I'll take the Grizzly over the Tiger.
Siberian Tiger hunts grizzlies